start recording as we get ready to kind of start things off, and I'm going to share something with you. I just kind of been making a list of the things that we have done, and then things that people have asked about moving forward. So, we're talking empty tonight. Next week, we're going to do play action in the spread, look at, true play action pass, look at bootleg, all of it. Next Wednesday, we're going to focus a little bit on O-line. And I think we're getting a guest lined up. An SEC coach is trying to make it happen where he can come in and talk about what they do with some drills and some different things. The Monday after that, Sean McAvoy, a buddy of mine here in Georgia, is going to come on and talk QV development and talk about some drills and some different things. He's the real deal, man. He if you're on Twitter, I'm sure you've probably seen Quincy Avery. Sean and Quincy worked together, they did the flight school last summer. And I mean, they're out there, with Deshaun Watson and Jalen Hurts and all these cats out there. And so, but the thing I know about Sean is he works with average high school kids, just like he works with those guys. And I believe in what they do. And I know I've met with him a few times personally, just about the way that we do things with our quarterback. So I'm fired up that he's going to come on. We're going to come back after that, do some drop back game. I feel like every other post on Twitter right now is Y-Cross. But we're going to talk about some 5-step kind of stuff. And then I want to get back into a little bit of run game. So we're going to hit power, maybe fold counter into that as well. And then offensive structure and design. I know Coach Corley and I were talking about some different things. And so I added that to the list. And I'm just always curious about how people structure things and set them up. And I know we kind of talk about that a lot of times when we do these things anyway. But I just kind of wanted to give that to you guys and show you because several people have been making suggestions. And so, man, if you got something, give it to me and we'll make it happen. And if you want to come on and lead the show, I'll frickin' crank it up and turn the keys over to you. And if you got somebody that you'd like to have on that and can get on, or that you want me to reach out to, man, just holler at me. And we'll do our best to make it happen. So,
hey, Pete.
Yes, sir.
Pete, I jumped in a little late there. You having Sean on with you?
Yeah, Sean's going to come on the 27th.
Oh, nice.
So I was texting back and forth with him a couple minutes ago. He was going to try to sit in the night, but he's occupied. But he's going to come on and go over drills and just talk about different things that they do. And he's a good dude, down to earth. He'll answer questions and show what he's got. So I'm always looking. I like learning individual stuff from each position as much as I like the overall stuff. So I was fired up to get him. But yeah, man. So anybody else y'all got, let me know. I'm gonna try to call some buddies at different places and see if they'd be interested in joining on and kind of go from there. So tonight, want to talk empty, and empty is one of those things that I love it. I watch football on Saturday and Sunday, and every time a team comes out and empty, my eyes light up. And part of the reason I love it is I know that as a defense coordinator, I hated it. Especially the more multiple teams were in their empty package, it gave me fits. Now, we were a 4-man front, carried an odd front as part of our nickel package, and some years we didn't have to change personnel. I could check to my odd front. I felt okay about it. But when I had to stay in my 4-man front and I had to change bodies to jump into odd, and you had the ability to go in and out of empty with keeping the same personnel on the field, it gave me problems. We have not run much empty at Sprayberry, despite how much I love it. And a lot of that is just, is protection based. Some of it is based on what I think the empty check is going to be, and feeling comfortable with it. And so, we've done a little bit, and it's always something that I want to carry and I want to talk more about, and it's something I know I want to add more to what we do. So kind of my first question for you guys, and for you guys that do a lot of it in particular, and this is kind of one of the things that I go back and forth on, is so we have been a concept-based team from a call standpoint, right? When I call curl, everybody's got an assignment. I call cross, everybody's got an assignment. And I can tag, cross H will if I want to, and it's not that hard to do. When I get into empty, my debate is always, do I take my existing concepts and translate them to empty, right? If I'm going to be 3x1 with the back weak and I'm in empty, we're going to line him up into the boundary to that where what would have been the single receiver side. And I just tell him, hey, run a hitch. Do I build the concepts out the same way it would have been in 3x1 where he would have been that flat player? Or does an empty concept have to stand alone? Does that make sense to everybody? That's kind of where I go back and forth with my, I guess, my game plan for empty, and in my head what I want empty to look like, and that's admittedly probably one of the kind of struggles for me, but so just to give you guys a bit of an idea, if we were going to be in a 2x2, and let's just say Y stick, right, and just traditional stick. And, we're going to, more release here and get the back into the flat. And, a lot of people work double slants on the backside or something similar, right? It's a great concept. And you take that tailback now and you line him up, whether you put him at number one or put him at number two, and you just put him in the flat. It's still a great concept. You put a stretch on the underneath defenders, you've got a chance to find some grass and get the ball out in a hurry. So, and I mean, you watch LSU play last year, or you watch the New Orleans Saints play, and I mean, this is day one for them. They'll do it 15 times a game, and they'll put Mike Thomas over here in the slot, and if you're the Saints, and give him an option route. So I guess my question is, how many of you build it out like that, where you're going to put your tailback in the formation and empty where he would end up in your normal concepts, or how many of you treat your empty concepts as true standalone concepts?
I build them in. So I number my receivers 1, 2, 3 from the outside in.
Yep.
So wherever that tailback rolls out to is whatever number slot he falls into, was whatever number receiver. Right? And then when I call my concepts, because I'm like you, Pete, I will run concepts instead of just plays and routes. But then I call my concepts from left to right.
Yep.
Drive, flood. So I have drive on the left side, flood concept on the right side, and just let them run that way. But I'll marry two concepts to match up together where I'm not running guys into each other.
We're getting into more of doing it like that than we have in the past, because I'm always a fan of structure, but I like flexibility. So we're getting into our protection is color coded, right? Green and gold work together. Green, we're starting the progression to the right, left, so on. So for us, if we were to call green and then call stick snag, right side's working stick, left side's working two-man snag. So we're getting into the same thing. But as I put it on paper, I always struggle with, do I build them in or do I? And so I'm like you, just building them in is what's always, to me, been the easiest thing to do, especially unless you've got that tailback that's just really a gifted receiver. Anybody else?
I do something a little bit different. So if I'm in 2x2, okay, and I want my tailback to be into the empty, okay, so I just go dual right, okay, so that's 2x2.
Yep.
If I want my tailback to the right, I just go dual right Raider,
mm-hmm.
and my back knows he's the third receiver in the right. If I want to go trio right Raider, so now I'm quads,
yep,
single on the backside. So I'm just identifying him with a Raider or a Laker call, telling him which side to go to. So I could be in any formation I want, but if I give him a Raider or Laker call, he lines up in the slot.
And his route distribution just stays the same as it would in the normal concept if he were in the backfield?
No. So I will then tag him.
So
I can go Raider T shake.
Gotcha.
Raider T go, or Raider T shack, or however I want to build him.
If he stays in the backfield, I'll tag him. But going back to, I don't have to be empty to call that dual concept, right? If I'm 2 by 2, then it's going to be one concept on one side, one concept on the other side.
Yep.
You know, and then if it's a single, if I'm 3 by 1, the concept is to the field, to the 3 receiver side, and then I'm choicing that single receiver.
Makes sense. Anybody else have another way they structure it?
Yeah, Coach, thanks for doing this, by the way. Great topic. So for us, the early stages of empty, our running back is always going to go to the number 3 spot, if you're counting from the sideline. And I don't ask him to do a ton of other stuff. Basically, he's just going to run a bubble, maybe like a wide juke or maybe like a post kind of thing if we get a cover 2 look. And so for right now with us, I guess to answer your question, we are more of a package with the empties. So we'll do the whole 3 plays in one thing. We'll have the double slant, to the 2 receiver side, a zone, and maybe a bubble or tag it with whatever we want that week. And then the quarterback could go from there. So from right now, with what we've done, it's been more of like a package type thing.
So we do something similar to that, Coach, with the package. Like we'll run personnel packages out there, and we have a formation that we call empty north or empty south, trips to the right or trips to the left. But we also run some of our quick game out of that.
Yeah.
Now we may just go empty out of any base formation that we run. We'll just call it empty north again or empty south just to move our back. But a lot of our quick stuff is trips, sets. So it's easy for him to know the running back wise what to do if the running back's out there. Or like I said earlier, when we go personnel packages where we have 5 wide receivers, the years that we're blessed with the ability to go 5 wide receivers, we'll put them all out there in an empty set and let them run. But like I said, we don't have much conceptual plays that are across the board. We do mostly half field tags or like trip sets.
Yeah.
So we'll have like we'll run squeeze out of trips. You got a 1 and 2 route in, and number 3's got the little win inside, things like that. And then we'll call squeeze to the trip side and something else to the double side, things like that.
Coach Field, go ahead.
Coach, if you don't mind, it's a question really for all you guys. I'd be curious to know, how you would incorporate your running back in regards to practice, going through all his running back duties and then asking him to do, learning a couple different receiver spots and concepts and stuff like that. I'd be curious to know how you guys would be able to incorporate that in your practice to make it as efficient as possible.
That's one of the things that I've always, that's been part of my holdup with it too, Coach, is unless I can keep it simple for that kid, how do I practice it for that kid and take away from what's our base stuff? We're just not a team that's gonna throw it around 100 times. There's nothing wrong with that. You can win ball games doing that. That's not what our head coach wants us to be. It's not how we're built as a staff and how our kids are built and the system's built. So I'm with you on that. I every now and again we all know what it's like, right? You get a special kid that just mentally he can do it. It doesn't take a million reps. You can move him around. But particularly at tailback, I've not had a ton of those kids that from that standpoint handle it. One of the best receivers I've ever coached in my life was Peyton Barber, who just he's a running back, just signed with the Redskins, played in at Tampa Bay. Peyton has some of the best hands of anybody I've ever coached at any level. Peyton got to Auburn, found out he was dyslexic, and it all made sense to us all of a sudden because we needed to keep certain things for him. And it's not that he wasn't a smart kid. He is a smart guy. But there were certain things just with the way his mind processed, right? So asking him to do a ton of stuff out of empty was never going to be something that our offense was going to be successful with. We did just a little. So, at the same time, I had a kid, Tony Williams, in 2008. We probably spent, no joke, 75 to 80% of our offense in 13P. And the other 20% we spent in a combination of 2x2 and empty. And so we would go from absolute pack you in there, run it down your throat, and then be at empty because Tony was a kid that he wasn't a blazer, but he had great hands. He was smart as could be, and you could tell him wherever you needed him to line up in the formation, you could tag it, you could adjust it, and he could handle the route, right? So I think sometimes, Coach, it matters on the kid, but that's a great question. So I'd love to hear how some of you other guys answer that.
Could I take kind of both of these questions together for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So in the off season and in the spring, we make all of our skill guys learn the same route tree that the receivers have, normal, 0 through 9, yada yada. So the backs have to learn it too. And then we can do concepts. Sometimes we do concepts, but a lot of our passing game is like, I know the concept, but I just give them the routes from left to right. So I can put the running back wherever I want, and then he gets the number for that spot. So say he's the second guy from the left, and we go 19-091. He knows he's got a 9. He's running a go. If he was the first spot on the left and it was 19, he'd run the 1, which is a hitch, and he'd have that. So it's really easy to have like plug and play parts. Anybody can come in and substitute for anybody. The running back can go out there because, like, obviously he doesn't get that practice during the week all the time, but in the off season he got plenty of that when we couldn't run the ball. So usually they're pretty good. Now, like you're saying, it depends on what kind of kid you got, whether you want to put them there or put them in certain situations. But they've got the basic skills that I need to put them in different places and stuff like that. And I've got the flexibility in the system to give them things. So we try to get some of that practice out of the way ahead of time.
Early.
Yeah, and then they can work on running back stuff during the season when we got pads on, and they can get kind of the receiver stuff out of the way when we don't.
So let me ask a question, and this is off topic a little bit, but are you no huddle, and do you signal? How do you communicate? Like, if you use the numbers system like that, how do you communicate, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. So we had been no huddle at time. We kind of change year to year depending on who we got and what we think is best for our whole team. And sometimes when we're no huddle, we'll go more conceptual than numbers because we feel like it disguises a little bit more, or at least it gives us a way to change it up if we feel like, oh, this team they're kind of figuring out what's going on here.
Yep.
So that's that part. What was the rest of your question on?
No, that was the main thing. I mean, I when I first got to Sprayberry, we were calling our passing game similar to the way that like Dan Gonzalez. So our front side, we used the route tree. And the backside we would tag. So if I wanted to run 3-man snag with, levels on the backside, we would call, 471 levels. And we were operating off a wristband. I always felt like it made it easy for me to be able to place a tailback and tell him what to do when we operated off that wristband, right? Right. Once we went away from that, I just, that to me, again, once we went away from that, we went to more concept-based. So it became harder for me, like Coach Barnes was asking, to find time to rep him that tailback at multiple routes and at multiple positions, and to do some things like that. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so like to place, and we'll try to say like say our formation was just called trips, or like our 3-by-1 was called trips. So then if we go trips empty, he knows he goes away from the trips.
Okay.
If we're in 2-by-2, say it's ace, then if we say ace empty, he'll go to the field because that's what we want, the extra receiver. So we just tag empty onto our formation, and it's more or less intuitive. You just explain it at the beginning. And then if you want them outside, like we took the word bow a long time ago from Tony Franklin and said that means back outside.
Yep.
So just try to keep that part pretty simple, and then, like I said, just route tree those guys off early on, and that way you have the flexibility if you want it.
That makes sense. Anybody else got an answer for Coach Barnes as far as how you work it in, sharing that receiver responsibility and that running back responsibility in your practice schedule?
I'm going to build off what Coach Donnelly's talking about, and we do the empty away from it as well. But if we go, right trips over, that means he's going over as well. Right, so that's just the other side to it, to get the quads that Coach Connor's been talking about the past 2 sessions. But then with Coach Barnes in practice, we have 20 minutes of Indy every single day, non-negotiable, even on Thursdays. You are getting some sort of Indy. His Tuesday first 12 minutes, or running back's first 12 minutes, has to be with the receivers. And that can still be working something as small that's as vanilla as key game for us, or, working the jet out of it, stuff that they do anyway. But they are every Tuesday non-negotiable. You are going with the wide receivers, 2 coaches, and hopefully we got a DB coach servicing.
I think
And the biggest question you got to ask yourself is how you want to get into it and what's your purpose for empty is. Is it a change up that you're going to do mid-drive, or is it going to be something you want to live in and use the weapon? Because empty can get expensive practice time wise.
Well, and that's why we chuck the ball around, but there's only so many things that I do out of empty. If I really like what somebody's given us, I'll go to some video here real quick. And so we do a lot of shifting in and out of personnel to get to empty to try and confuse the defense a little bit. And so, one of our biggest things is singling in empty. Quads is singling up our best kid right here. So this kid's
Share it, Coach. I don't see it.
oh, sorry.
I haven't been able to find the button either, Coach. You're all right.
It's down at the bottom.
Yeah.
In my life, Corley.
Green button right in the middle.
Covered on the bottom.
I'm getting there. Okay,
Let's get them coached up on this.
let's get them coached up.
Sure, Cookie, you got to wave and say hello to
There we go. There we go.
There he is.
You guys see it? You guys see
There
it?
we go. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So this kid right here, he's a really good football player, and so we're going to try and single him up because we know exactly what we're getting
Yep.
when we get to this spot. And so I could have lined up in this all night and went haymakers. And so, we're going check with me and we're just gonna drop back, give him the ball. He's a big double move kid and he's out of here.
Yeah.
Right. And so that to us isn't really that expensive because it's what we do anyways out of 3x1. It's
Coach,
yeah.
Is he your quarterback choicing that, or are you telling them what you're running?
So in that specific instance, he knows he's going to that kid based on the look that we got. And that kid's, like I said, big double move kid. I mean, he had 19 touchdowns last year and probably 17 of them were off double moves. Okay. He's going to be a Power 5 kid, got offered by TCU on Monday. And so, a lot of times he's the best kid on the field. And so you're going to single him up. Good luck. Right. And a lot of times that's going to happen based on, formationing him. And
But
so
what I was saying is he's got certain routes that he's going to run regardless.
regardless,
Or you're not, the quarterback's not choicing him, hey, I want you to hitch this one or go this
No.
one.
no, he's so in that poison concept, he knows he's got the double move.
Okay.
And he's taken it.
Nice.
And so I think, to come full circle is you got to say, hey, this week we're going to be an empty and we're going to run our vertical game, and our T, who is building that formation, he's going to have a shake route underneath. And so for everybody else, it's verticals, and he knows he's got that option route. So it really doesn't take that much time to practice. Once you practice it, early in the fall, it's just pretty much brushing it up.
Well, so I wanted to kind of go back and backtrack a little bit. I think it's super important that, we're an empty team. We're going to be an empty team regardless. So we adjust year to year. Sometimes we'll sub and go true 5 wide. Sometimes we're going to shift our back out. But it has to be year to year, in my opinion. You can't, in my opinion, in high school, at least at the school I'm at, I can't say we are going to be this. So I have to be able to coach my kids out different ways. Now, that being said, we pride ourselves on being able to run our entire offense at a 3x2. So we can run our entire offense, all of our quick game, all of our drop back, we can run out of 3x2. And I think, my man McPeak's in here, so I can't say too much, but we can do whatever we want out of there. So, but we can also place our F, which is our tailback, wherever we want him. We use a lettering system, and we'll get in our 2x2 set, and we'll go A, B, C, D, E, and we'll move our back wherever we want him. And we expect him, if he's going to play, we expect him to understand our concepts. We expect him to understand our quick game. And if he doesn't, then we'll sub. It's kind of how we handle it.
Coach, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, buddy. For us, empty's more of a package, Coach. We use it a lot with our tight end, and we'll do some stuff where he's on the line of scrimmage and where he flexed, and we can run some counter stuff with motions and run counter reads, throw quick games, throw screens. But for us, we do that kind of just to get a little bit more with guys out of the box. And I like the inline tight end because it sets defenses, especially we play a lot of odd front teams. So I like it just for that purpose and get our athletes in space with a little bit more of a spread concept.
When you ground the tight end and empty, do you put him to the 3 receiver side mostly, or do you put him on the 2 receiver side?
We'll do both. As we went on last year in the playoffs, we put the tight end into the boundary some and brought that single receiver off the ball and motioned him a lot.
Yep.
And that really helped. They really helped us. We had a running quarterback, not a thrower, but that really helped us. We weren't a big empty team 2 years ago because our quarterback was more of a pocket guy. But this year we did a little bit of both. It wasn't always to the field. We did put him in at the boundary and do some of those things, and would throw pop pass and middle screen to him and do some of those things, and it was pretty good to us.
I love grounding a tight end and empty. I think especially against an odd front, right? If you put him to the trip side, you almost force him to play cover 3 now, or they got to bring a safety down, right? Because they need to leave that viper. They have to have an edge if you're a threat to run the ball at all out of your empty. So they can't walk that viper out over number 2, or they can't really – he's got to get down in there, or they're giving you numbers in the run game. So, yeah, I love that, Coach. I'm a big fan of a grounded tight end and empty.
Yeah, we do that quite a bit. Now this year we got 5 or 6 pretty good wideouts, so we may look at doing some 5 wideout packages without the true running back. I have not done that in the past, but that's something I'm studying.
Yeah. Yeah, we're blessed at tailback, and I mean we legitimately have 4 of them that I've have no issues putting in the game. 2 of them I don't know how well they're going to do handling catching the football. The other 2 when one of them does start in the slot but also plays in the backfield, and the other one is good enough to do both. So for us it makes sense for it to be in for us. It's just a question of how do we build it. So that or Coach Stilts, you need to make sure you're doing some ball drills so that we can get Isaiah and Demarion catching the football.
We're good. You know what I want to do with that 20 set.
I know. So yeah, Coach Stilts is a blessed man, guys. He has a 1,700-yard rusher returning, and a kid that right now could walk into a bar and buy any one of us a beer, and he's only 15 years old. But he's like he looks like the second coming of Herschel Walker. Now, he hasn't played like that yet, but he was good as a freshman until he tore his ACL. So Coach Stilts is a blessed man. So,
well, last point brought up, where do we find is more effective quarterback play at empty? Is that runner, or is it the pocket passer? Because I know when I was on the other side of the ball and trying to stop everybody, empty presented more problems to me with that runner because I had to keep one more in the box for that free hitter there.
He has to be able to run a little.
Yes.
He has to. If you've got sausage back there, you're in trouble.
Even look, if a team, if you're a defensive coordinator and you're breaking down a team, and let's say they spend anywhere from 10 to 15% of the snaps in empty, if they run quarterback draw enough, or if they run power read enough, it changes the way you have to practice in a week. It 100. When we saw teams that played just enough empty to know, like if they carried it every week and would get in it and test you every week to find out if they liked it, it completely changed the way I had to script my practice plans as a defense coordinator. Especially when they schemed up draw and when they schemed up any motion and power read. It completely changed the way I would have to scrap something, because as a four-man front coach in particular, it just created so many problems. Now, if you just want to sit back and play quarters, even as an odd front, right? If you're just going to say, hey, we're going to play cover four, and Mike, you got to try to get in the hole and carry, well, that's great, because now you can freaking throw quick game all day long against those guys. So there's a give and take there. So I think that's a good question, Coach Stilts, because, and I agree with you, Cameron. You don't have to have Lamar Jackson. You have to have enough.
Well, last year, our kid could run the football, but we didn't, because if he would have got hurt, we couldn't function as a football team. So we waited to run him until the playoffs. And with that being said, we did not show any QB run at all in the regular season. And I think what you said is exactly right, Pete, is that a lot of teams are going to bail. They're going to play extremely high, either in quarters and bail, or sometimes we saw 3 high. You have to throw quick game, and you have to throw it a lot, and you have to have different looks to make sure they don't know exactly what you're doing. But I agree. A running quarterback is going to help you more often. It's going to make that look harder, but you can do it if you just have a pocket passer.
Yep.
I've got a little bit of a rule of thumb of doesn't matter what we're in. And, I've never had a super blessed athlete at quarterback, but it doesn't matter how good or bad our kid is. We've got to run it at least 7 times with him. Number one, putting it on film, making sure, teams aren't just freaking destroying the mesh point, all that kind of stuff. And so, I think this still applies, in empty. You got to be able to run. You got to run him enough to keep people honest and keep them from teeing off on you. Because if teams know, hey, they're not running this dude.
Yep.
It's give up football.
Yeah, I talking about this brings back, I can't remember what year it was, but I'm an Ole Miss guy, and it was our off week, and I went back one year and sat in the fancy seats with a fancy friend, and it's end zone, and it's up top, and they're playing Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel, and early in the game, they ground the tight end, they get an empty, and start running quick game and power read and just quarterback draw and quarterback stretch. And once they realized that Ole Miss had no answer, which has kind of been a trend for Ole Miss defensively for a while, once they realized they had no answer, they didn't get out of it, man. And obviously Manziel at A&M, that's what he did. That's a whole nother conversation. But just from a schematic standpoint, even if it wasn't Johnny Football back there running around, man, you're presenting an extra gap. You're motioning a receiver occasionally. They didn't even do it much. But they threw quick game, quarterback stretch, quarterback draw. And it was stick draw out of empty. And to have the hats and then have a talented receivers on the outside, especially if you've just got that one guy, right? Find out where are they weak, where are they isolating you, where are you getting the one-on-one coverage, and have the ability to attack with him. It presents so many damn problems.
100% agree.
I think the one thing that probably, and it's very rare to find a kid that can tote the pill a ton that you sit there and go, man, I really like him catching the ball down the field. Those guys, they're really good at running between the tackles and that kind of stuff. very few times do they just have just great hands and great route runners and all that kind of stuff. Now they're great athletes, obviously, but I've very rarely seen a kid that they look like they can do it, and then you put them out there, you're like, shit, this guy can't do anything out here.
Yeah.
And so and that's why I put my guy inside. To now he's running hitches, he's running shallows, he's running some stops, and then he's going to take take the top off every once in a while. But and it's really hard to find a kid that can do all that.
It is, and I'll say this, Coach. I like the ability to put the tailback on the outside, but I'm most inclined to put him inside. And and one of the reasons is, again, going back to my experience from the other side of the ball, one of the better offenses we played every year was a crosstown rival, and they were a really good offense, good football team, well coached, and they carried empty every year. But when they put the back on the outside, I just basically told my guys, don't cover him, because all he was doing was running the hitch if he was wide. If he was on the inside, we had to play the concept, But if the back was out wide, whether it was to the trips or to the single, to the two receiver side, if he was running the fade, it was nothing but a freaking decoy. So do enough to respect it, but they weren't going to throw him the ball, And that was, that Josh Dobbs, who I guess Josh is in Jacksonville now, but was at Tennessee. It was Josh and Carlos Burst, who played receiver at Vanderbilt. They had some dudes, and you had to respect Josh's legs because he was a good athlete, and they ran quarterback draw and a little bit of power read. But I didn't give a damn when they put the tailback out wide because he wasn't going to beat me, And I do think that's one thing, Coach, about putting them on the inside is you have to play the concept more honest when the tailback is on the inside, in my opinion. If you have that special kid, putting them on the outside makes sense. But like you said, those are few and far between.
Well,
So,
I feel like I can create space. Especially if I start in 2x2 and I shift, and I move my tailback to 1, your corner's going to move.
That's a different story. I agree with you.
Yeah, and that I can create that space. I can create that grass that I want, especially on 4 verts.
Yep.
You have to stay over top of that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do think ending up in empty is a lot different than starting in empty as far as how you have to defend the tailback, right? Whether you push him out and get him set, or you just push him out and snap it on the fly, you have to handle a little bit differently. Teams that ended up in empty sometimes cause more trouble than teams that started in empty, because a lot of high school teams that I faced when they started empty were fairly predictable. But when a team's willing to end up there, it changes the coverage structure a little bit, right? And that's one thing, if you're playing a defense that has a surefire trips check, where if you put the back strong into the trips, and you're going to get cover 3 or it's going to be quarters and they're going to fish that backside safety way the hell off the hash, take that tailback out of the backfield and motion him outside of that single receiver. Because what you're probably about to get is a corner on your single receiver and a freaking linebacker matched up on your dude, on your X. So I agree with you, Coach. I do think moving from a traditional 10-piece set into a 3x2 or even into a 4x1 can completely be more effective, particularly when it comes to putting that back on the outside.
Yeah, we learned that. We learned that this year. We've been a 3x2 team for years, and we really utilized our back this year because he was a senior, and we gave him a shot at tailback. And you know what? He did the job. So I wasn't going to take a senior off the field that was doing a job.
Yep.
And that forced me to create and be creative, with what we were doing, and moving him out of the backfield. Gosh bless it put defenses in a bind all year long, and I'm going to stick with it. There's no reason to change. I'm just going to make it work for us.
Anybody, is on Twitter a good coach to reach out to for all that type of stuff? The dudes at Tampa Jesuit, we did a overnight or whatever you want to call it. Tampa Jesuit tears up their F game and the empty. They do 1,700 different things it's something special. They also have some Jimmies and Joes that public school guys don't really have.
Is that are they blue and white?
Yep, blue and white.
We went to UCF camp one year, and they rolled down there with Vinny Testaverde's son at quarterback
Yeah,
and kept
yeah,
motioning to empty and doing a bunch of stuff. He could
Yeah.
sling it around a little bit.
yeah. They do some pretty cool stuff out of especially with their F and motioning to empty out of 4x or putting them outside or inside. I mean, they do a bunch with the F stuff.
Yeah.
So when you have a dude that's really good, I keep him up. I take this kid from receiver, put him at quarterback, put my quarterback at receiver. You guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
And then everything's easy.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I think there's ways you can manipulate that to get your best guy to be able to run the football
Yep.
at that point, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so, going to that, but now you become a little bit more predictable when you get to that. But that kid could throw it enough.
Right.
So he could throw the key screen out there. He could throw the stick, and so he was still a threat to throw now, to where my other kid was really not a threat to run.
Right.
And so then you just build it a little bit different way.
Yep.
We experimented with that as well. And honestly, the kid we put back there, he played football, but we didn't do enough of it for defenses to respect it. But we had success with it, just not enough that I'd like. You know what I mean? But it can be good to you if you do it the right way.
For sure.
I think
Coach Turner, go ahead, Coach.
I think the thing is, when you're doing that, put your wide receiver or something there, just getting it on film, I mean, you're taking away practice time from the other team. And I think that's a huge part of it. And even if you're just carrying it and not really doing a ton with it, just that threat there is really going to dictate what the other team's, practice time, because there's only so much you got. I mean, that's a
For
valuable
sure.
resource. So even if you're not going to live in it, even if he, like I said, if he has the threat to throw it, that's huge. But just showing it once in a while, and if they know it's on film, that does a lot to the defensive coordinator, because defensive coordinator trying to draw up everything you show them.
For sure.
Lack of preparedness.
Yep.
Well, and I wanted that kid to have the ball in his hands 20 times a night. And so we had to come up with ways to get him the ball, because you couldn't just now that kid you could line him up out at receiver and just do whatever you want. He was the number 3 receiver in the country, but that you don't always have that kid. But so we use that as, hey, well, snap him the damn ball then.
Yep.
You give it to him 3 times, he's going to rip one. He might get the shit knocked out of him too, but the chances are pretty good he's going to make something happen.
I think
Yes, sir.
the biggest thing about empty is, quality defensive coordinators, they don't prep a ton for it because they don't see a lot of it. So they have an empty check that they rep a little bit.
And that's what you're going to see. It's one thing.
And then if they don't give you that, you're going to fucking burn them up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cussed, but
I love it. I love it. I love it.
if they give you something that they haven't run because they're playing whoever you are,
They're not going to be good at it.
fortune.
Yep. I won't. I know Coach Turner just got here, and I want to give him a chance to talk here in a minute because they do some really good stuff out of empty. But I'll say 2012, 13, I believe, 2 or 3 years in a row, we sent most of our staff to North Carolina, and it was primarily for the offensive staff to go sit down with those guys. And Blake Anderson, that's at Arkansas State now, and Walt Bell, that's the head coach at UMass, and a lot of those guys, and Fedora, obviously, were really freaking good to us. And I was the defense coordinator, and they sent me, and I spent most of my time sitting in with the offense, to be honest. But I sat down with Coach Keening, and I said, Coach, I have one question. I said, what is the most sound, simple, smartest thing you can do against empty? And he just stared at me. And he said, Coach, last year, he said, I had every GA and quality control in our building run a study on every snap of empty in Division I and NFL. He said, we charted the offensive formation, the offensive play, defensive formation, pressure, and coverage. He said the result was nobody has a damn clue. And he and I sat there for 2 hours and talked nothing but empty. And and we talked about, I love this, but this is what gives me problems, right? And we just traded like that for 2 hours. And I walked out of that meeting, and we were sitting at dinner that night with our offensive staff, and I looked at them and I said, if you punks don't put in empty, I said, I'm going to be cussing you out every weekend. You're sitting there and you're talking to a guy that's got 20 something years at Division I level at that point in time. And we can have a later discussion about how good a coaches some of those guys actually are. But I do think he's an intelligent coach. And to see his face when I asked him that question, I mean, you'd have thought it was the damn toughest thing in the world to answer. So, Coach Turner, do you want to introduce yourself and drop a little knowledge on us?
Yeah. So first, I appreciate everyone. Let me have some time to talk here. So I've been coaching 31 now. I've started coaching when I was 19, so this will be my 13th year. I played at Kenton High School, which you guys may be familiar with a little bit. Matty Mock played at Missouri, then Ben Mock, who played at Cincinnati. Their dad was our head coach. So back in 2000, he went to the 2001, went to the no back offense with Ben. And we've been doing it ever since.
Play against those suckers every summer in freaking 7-on-7.
Yep. We still travel all over, play 7-on-7 quite a bit. So we run and shoot. That's our base. So all vertical passing games can come from side adjustment. We run the choice. We run the streak. It's a lot of Mouse Davis stuff. We kind of went away from the go a little bit just because streak gives us about the same thing if we tag it the right way. We probably will get back to the go route a little bit more just because I think there's advantages and stuff we can do on the backside. But, I can't take credit for it. It was a lot of Mike Mock. We broke the records, but, we own about every single passing record in high school football as far as Kenton goes with Matty and Ben. We used to have the all-time leading receiver, too. I don't know if he still is or not. His name was Justin Sawmiller. He went to Cincinnati, then to BG. Just finished up a couple years ago. But, it's kind of the history of Kenton football. And, we're empty. So I was offense coordinator in 16 and 17. Last couple of years, I was coaching at Bluffton University, now back at Kenton. So my 2 years there, we led the state of Ohio in passing. I think we were third my first year. We were first my second year. We led them in total yardage both years. I believe our quarterback was he was one of the top guys in the nation in total yardage his junior year before I left. So, we were able to do some good stuff. Kind of evolved a little bit from Coach Mock. He was pretty much quick game, screen game, vertical passing game, run shoot. We did some empty RPOs. We changed protection completely. Pretty generic protections, half man, half slide. Just because of the versatility it was compared to the run and shoot protection. But, any questions you got, I can draw them up on the whiteboard. I can answer them.
I'll say this, Coach. One of the things, because I went and pulled up Huddle and watched your quarterback from last year and watched his highlight tape. Mm-hmm. And I know one of the things, first of all, the kid's pretty freaking slippery in the pocket. Yep. But one of the most impressive things to me was how you guys attacked vertically out of empty, because I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with is just if you're getting pressure and dealing with protection. So my main question for you was, does the quarterback have any responsibility in protection? And then, I start there if you don't mind, and then give us anything you got, Coach.
Okay. So can you guys see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. I could probably pull up film and maybe better, but I'll try this. So, what we teach the quarterback is we're going to get a lot of 3-down fronts. Everyone can see me writing?
A little bit. There we go. That's better.
Okay. So, we're going to teach the 4 basic fronts, which we call a big front, which is a 4-1, a nickel front, which is a 4-2, an odd front, which is a 3-2, an odd stack. So teaching big and the odd's not going to be a big deal, but we can start with odd. So just like we do it here, I can draw them up in technique. So we get a 5, most of the time. and we get a 0. That's pretty base for us. So what we do is teach our quarterback, whichever way he's looking, quick game and vertical game, they each have a different pass protection call. So our Q is responsible for calling the protection. If he gets a vertical pass, he's going to call 350 after he looks at the defense if he knows he's going right, which is going to tell these guys, here's our slide, here's our man. If he thinks he's going to go left pre-snap, he's going to make a 351 call. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Even right, odds left, pretty simple.
Yep.
It's quick game. He knows. So all it's telling is a one-step pass. These guys are to jump set into the guys, knock hands down, and then 151 if he's going left. So he has to know quite a few things pre-snap. Number one, he has to look at me for the signal. Number two, he has to scan the defense quickly as he's walking up here and have an idea. A lot of this is going to be ingrained in him throughout the week. What I will tell you with empty offenses, you're not going to get a whole lot week in, week out of different defenses. You're going to get one or two. So pre-snap, we have a pretty good idea of where they are. The one thing I would say, probably the best team that schemes us is Coldwater, Ohio. If you're familiar with them, they're a small school, multiple state championships. They're in the MAC. If you ever heard of Marion Local, play those guys. So the MAC usually produces 1 or 2 state champions every year. One of the top tier programs in there. They do a lot of good stuff. They do 3 safety stuff against us. So that game planning takes a little bit more time, but most teams are pretty basic. So what he has to know, let's just say we go trips here. Okay. If we go trips here and he knows he's going right, he makes a 150 call. He now identifies this is the box. He knows he's protected here. He's got man on. These 2 guys are going to triangle to these 2 guys. These 2 guys are going to triangle to these 2 guys. So what he's going to do, he's going to hit here. He's going to protect A gap, eyes to his nearest threat. He's going to stay on here. He's protecting backside A heavy. These guys are essentially just think of a double team in the inside zone. Working here. This guy's going to set here, protect this B gap, make sure there's no spike or anything like that. He's going to work here. If he has nothing to show, and he's going to go tee off on this end against the tackle. So what he has to know, 150, is telling us if he has a backer out here, he starts creeping, he's now responsible for him.
Right.
Running back. So let's just say we run green. Green for us is a double slant kind of thing. So he knows right now he's coming. He's responsible for him. So his job is either to set up and get the ball out quick, or he's got to be an athlete. He's going to work a D-gap escape where he's going to set him up and he's going to roll out. So day one for our quarterbacks, when we start teaching coverages, we're teaching protections right away. What we can do, and we had this power before, it depends how smart this guy is back here or how smart one of these guys are. If we get a backer walk up, we had a guard one time who was really, highly smart football player. He's at Capital, it's a D3 school right now. He's a fullback, but he was our guard. He would see that and he would yell flip call. So he'd yell flip, flip, flip. And his rule was if this guy's at depth and he's not being aggressive, he can make a flip call. And now it just turns his 150 into a 151. The quarterback hears flip. He knows he's protected from here.
Yeah.
He's not going to get anything off this side. And that's some stuff that we done. If it's 350, okay, so it's a vertical pass game. Let's say we call streak. Streak for us is just 4 verts. We run a little differently. He can curl inside. If you guys are familiar with Dino Babers and how he runs streak, it's pretty similar. But if he knows he's coming and it's a vertical passing game, and he calls 350, okay, he calls 350, he can check this right now, and he can call 360, which just means 6-man protection. And now he's part of the man side, so he's going to pick up this backer, so he knows he's protected with 6 guys. Okay, so that's kind of the 101 of it. And, we don't try to oversimplify things or overcomplicate things. These 5 guys for us are guys that can't play defensive line, so they may not be as physical, but they can get somebody's way, if that makes sense. So that's how we teach it. And he just has to know who the 6 guy is. And if he knows who the thick guy is, he can protect himself.
Yep.
There's times, especially if this kid's really good. The kid I had that was a junior. He was a pretty good player. He went on to play at Tiffin. He's now a linebacker, but he was just a real good football player. And if he could listen, he had a kind of a knack. And what I would tell him is, you know, if you know you're going right on quick game and you call 150 and you got a backer out here who's setting and you think he's going to come and this kid's off and it's 150 and you know you can't get the ball out quick, or you think you can get the ball out quick and you look over here, feel this guy, and if you can't get it out in your first read, he'd go make a miss and be an athlete.
So do you give him permission, like right there? Like, would you give him permission to flip it himself? I know you said you've had, you know, it's like a guard that could make that call before. Do you ever let him slide it the opposite direction if he knows, you know, if he feels very confident the pressure's coming from the particular side?
Yep. If he gets back here and he scans, he can flip it.
Okay.
100%. He'll put his hand up and, you know, kill, and then flip. And it'll just 150. Now it turns into 151. And then these guys, they know he's coming, so they make a call in here. We call it red, and just fan it out. And then he knows his sixth guy now is this kid, because these two guys are working here and he's working here. Okay? So he knows his sixth guy is the backer coming from this side of depth because he's the least dangerous at this point. So nothing over, you know, complicated. We spend a lot of time teaching it though. The hardest thing is when you get odd stack. That's the hardest one to teach because there's so much movement in odd stacks and there's a lot of bluffing. So we teach it basic. You know, if you call 150, you know right now him. As soon as he walks up and breaks the heel depth of the defensive lineman, he breaks heel depth right now, we'll teach it. Now you're responsible for this guy
For the mic.
in the neck. He's dangerous.
Yep.
So we teach it just like that. If he would happen to walk up and you get this, you know, he knows he's now the next most dangerous. And they just get big on big. And we're telling him 100% of the time, you better check it and throw this aside, because don't worry about what's going on over here. Even if you like the matchup, you got to go over here. You got to find your guy, because if not, you think you got a better matchup, he comes to the B gap, we're finding the backup quarterback. So he knows and gets that walked up, he's got to go to this side. You're getting man coverage anyways.
Yep. Let me ask this kind of to everybody. So one of the best defenses we play on our schedule, we play regions in Georgia, and we finished third in the region. The first and second team played each other for the state title last year. Right. So one of the better, they're an odd stack defense, and one of their favorite things to do when they want to really pressure is they're going to stand the ends up, and whichever side the back is on, the end will blitz peel a lot of times with the back, and they'll bring the mic and the outside guy from that same side and flush. That's one of the things I like about empty, and if you're smart with protection is if teams are using blitz peel on you take them out of it. There is no peel. They got to walk a guy. They got to walk a guy right now and show you where the pressure is. So that's, you know, as you're talking, and I'm walking through it in my head, you know, that's one of the things that I like about one empty, but also what the protection does is if teams want to use that blitz pill, you take that away from them right now, you know?
Yeah. You're really simplifying it for our kids. Defenses have definitely evolved since, you know, we first started implementing this, because, you know, most of the time you're getting man covers. Now it's a lot of quarters match stuff. You're getting a lot of savings, cover 7 stuff.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. But what we have been teaching our kids, if they're going to run that kind of stuff, they're putting their kids on islands, you know, in that 10 to 15 yard area. And that's feed ground for us. I mean, that's where we want to be, that intermediate passing. You know, we don't want to have to throw the ball 25, 30 yards downfield. We love to throw the ball between that 8 and 16 yard area. So that's kind of our bread and butter.
So
now, how often
go ahead, Corley.
How often do you all see, like, I call it a rat defense, but a one hole Yep. You know, where you're getting them. And just for everybody, not just Coach Turner, but when I was a linebacker coach, our empty check was a one-hole wrap. You know, basically a cover 3 match. So I don't know how often y'all see it and what's your answer to it, other than why shallow. Like, let's get over why shallow.
To be honest, with how we run things, we're not going to get a whole lot of one high coverage, just because we're such a big passing game. So we're going to get, you know, we're not going to get a lot of one high stuff. We're going to get a lot of 2 high stuff. If we are getting 1 high stuff, we're going to run the vertical routes to death. We're going to run our straight package to death, and we're going to throw the ball and fall out to the outside, or we're going to run choice into the cow. And our other thing we would do is run the swap, which is our now screen or split ends, and we're going to run the bubble. And then we're going to run some kind of variation with inside zone for their quarterback.
Right.
To be honest with you, we'll run gold too. Hey, you got to go. That's my son.
It's all good, Coach.
You're running 1 high coverage right now, it looks like.
Yeah.
You're running 1 high with your son, 1 high coverage with your son right now.
Yeah, exactly. We'll run gold, which is an out fade combo. We'll run slants. Hold on. Gotta go. Get out.
I'll go ahead and talk. We rarely ever see 1 high. And if we do, we're getting cover 1, or they're going to bring that safety down and give us cover 0. So,
and if we're getting cover 1, we're in heaven. The best thing we can do against cover 1, I'll show you this, and we'll run, honestly, 3 plays cover 1. And we won't get out of these 3 plays until they make an adjustment. And what we teach our guys is our W and our X are our best guys. So W will be here, X are here. The tighter, hold on.
Oh, he muted it. Y'all are in trouble now, boy.
The tighter the coverage is, so if they're going to press, the tighter our splits are. So we're going to walk it down and almost be side to side. Get out of here. Hold on. I'm going to have to get rid of him. You can't write, buddy. You have to just sit and watch and listen. Okay? So we'll run what we call green. It's a slant and a bubble. And they got to decide if they're going to banjo it or whatever. And if they banjo it, we'll go completely different. We'll go to an out fade combo.
Yeah.
And just play like that. What we also do, we get a ton of yardage out of this. We'll go X and W, and we'll just run our bubble screen. He sets and cracks the screen, and he'll throw it out here. And I'm telling you, 90% of the time, this corner will follow.
Yep.
And we'll throw it right out there, and it's easy yardage.
No doubt.
And we will run those 3 plays until they find an adjustment out of cover 1. Because we practice it so much, our kids know it inside and out. And we'll say we'll play best on best if that's the scenario, and we believe our best is going to be better than yours.
How much do you carry from week to week, Coach?
We really only run 12 plays. So our vertical package is what we call the stop route, which is smash, side adjustment smash, the streak route with variations. So we'll call switch corner, switch post, run, shoot, switch stuff. And then we'll run the choice route. And run, we've dabbled in walk cross, we've dabbled in, a couple other things out of that. Those are the 3 staples that we're always run. And then we'll run 4 or 5 quick passing games, and then we'll run a couple RPO. So we're carrying about 12 plays at most. We went in games and I broke it down, and we ran 6 plays.
Wow.
And we've been, those are the games that we probably do the best. If we're going to be able to run our 6 best plays, we're in pretty good shape. But the most we'll go 12, about 4 or 5 formations, 12 plays, and we're just trying to snap the ball as fast as we can.
And so 4 or 5 formations. I mean, all empty. How much do you do with the back in the backfield?
My first year as OC, we had 0 plays with the back in the backfield. We were 100% empty. And then my second year, We ran, I think it was 585 plays, and 30 of those plays had a back in the backfield. And a lot of that was we ran a RPO that was a quick game to the right, and then it was a counter back. And the back was, his job was to lead block on the linebacker.
Yeah.
So we never handed it to him. He never had a carry. His job was to block for the quarterback because he was a pretty good runner.
So what you're saying is you'd rather be a linebacker at your school than be a running back.
Say that again.
You'd rather be a linebacker at your school than a running back.
Yeah. Our running back is our A-back, and we call him the animal back. He's honestly like a running back. He has a running back mentality where he's just a tough, good kid. But his job is to run the hole and run the bubble.
Well, I saw on film. Was it 25 or 24? Something was a kid that down the pipe on the bubble, and then I saw him a couple times in a pretty tight split, even in protection a couple times.
Yep.
When I was watching your quarterback's film. Yeah.
Yep.
Coach, you said that you're trying to play fast. Okay, so when you're running go. When you're running your go concept, are you using an adjuster or are you keeping that kid stationary?
We're sighted adjusting.
Yeah, I guess what I mean, I'll make it a little bit simpler. So your inside receiver, is he coming across the formation to identify coverage and then working himself back to the flat, or are you just running go from a stationary target where he's got He's got the sweep route?
Are we going to motion to go or motion return to go?
Yeah.
Or just we motioned a little bit more than probably we have passed, but for the most part, we're going to line up in our formations. We're going to do it.
Okay, so you don't think it gives you an advantage making that guy an adjuster to the formation?
What we have found with us is if we motion, the defenses don't adjust. They just bump over, and whatever their trips check is, or make their trips check to that side.
Mind-blowing to me.
Double check that side. What's that?
That's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, that's what we get most of the time.
Wow.
Now we will, once in a while you'll see some kind of adjustment, but not enough to sit there and say we motion the majority of our snaps.
Yeah.
There's enough pre-snap indicators and empty to tell us what the coverage is. Now the advantage we get is if we see the prior week that kids cannot communicate on film or doesn't look like they're communicating on film, we'll motion. Not a lot of return motion unless we're in the red zone. And then we will just to get, put our split in off the ball, let him motion. That corner has to adjust the slot and then push him back out real fast to gain leverage.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do some of that kind of stuff. But honestly, there's not enough to say with our side adjustment stuff and teaching our kids for the seam read, we get more out of just keeping him stationary and letting him get a good pre-pass picture than to get him running across and checking and all that kind of stuff when he has to make the side adjustment on the fly or running downfield. We can create a clear pre-pass picture. He's going to know. Probably the best thing we've done the past couple of years is teaching. If we get a route reading team, a quarter team or whatever, we just tell them that everything turns in their man beaters. So they no longer set stationary. They don't curl up at 12 yards on a streak route, and they now run across, and that becomes what some people call basic or whatever else.
Yeah.
We call it 12-yard dig. That's probably where we've gotten better at the route reading stuff to give us an advantage.
Coach, I mean, I don't know if anybody else on here is a run and shoot guy. I think one or two are based on what I know about you. I feel like it's kind of becoming a little bit in vogue again. People are starting to get back into it. And part of that is I think just the growth of coaches on social media and the availability of information. Will you walk us through one of your top concepts? And I'm familiar with Go. I'm curious to know, I guess, how you do it out of empty, because the guys that I've talked to and studied, haven't taught it to me out of empty. So walk us through one of your top concepts, if you don't mind, and just through the progression, how you're setting it up and what those side adjustments are.
Yep. So I can tell you how we haven't got to Go. I really want to go back to it just because it's super easy with how we run streak, and it's pretty much the same stuff. So I'll teach you how it's been running through my mind. We want to do it, and it's honestly pretty. I mean, anyone can do it. So our A back. So we would call what we call Rex. Rex means it's in the A back to the right. Go. Y, Z, W, and then X. So to the front side, the sweep route, right? He's going to jab step inside. He's going to go work the 5 yards to the flat. He's on the seam read. Safety's high. If the safety's high, he's going to dig it up at 12 yards. If the safety is flat-footed, he's going to carry. If it turns into man coverage, he can bring it across. He's on a go out. He's out. How, in my mind, I'm thinking we're going to do it is we're going to carry this guy on through on a post, and he's going to work back here. So what I would teach my quarterback in this, he gets to decide where he wants to go based on everything, based on leverage and game plan and all that. But if he gets a guy hanging tight here, he can take this as 1, take this as 2, work back to 3, back here. If he's getting too high, then he's going to take the post as 1, he's going to work this as 2, and he's going to work down this as 3. But with 1 high, we're going 1 to 2. Basically, back to 3 is a check down coming across. Does that make sense?
It does. So real quickly, too high again, you're going to look at that W on the post route?
Yeah, we're going to look at post because that safety opens the door and he's wide.
Yep.
Like it's cover 2 or whatever. We're going to take this post all day long because chances are this kid is either a best receiver or this kid's our best receiver. We can switch it. So what we call switch, which is just this, it just tells our 2-man receiver, 2 side, to switch responsibility so he can go. And then he can run this 5-yard dig.
Yep.
So we feel like they're running some kind of bracket to our 2 receiver side, and he's reading him with an outside backer. You know, we're going to run the post outside. We're going to play one-on-one with this corner.
Yep.
And him to leverage. Does that make sense?
It does. So too high, you're going to go W as your 1. What's your second read you said?
We're going to come down here. Because
Okay.
if you know it's too high, we're going to work this guy in here because chances are he's going to be digging in here,
Yep.
working off this backer.
Yep.
So if this backer is doing what most 2 high defenses do, he's probably going to go chase this kid, and you're going to get some kind of push call or whatever else. So he's going to have to be working a fine here. And, you know, we really like, if we can get a Mike backer in a slot, he can work all this area in here, make him go chase. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
It does.
So really, we get in a perfect world, this safety happens to sit on top and take it. You know, chances are this safety's not playing flat-footed too hard. You know, just because of quarters covered, you're probably gonna get more quarters over here than a palm speed kind of
Yep.
stuff. So he's gonna be able to work in this window off these backers and find something. And we run that so much with our streak route, we feel pretty good at just adding this concept in, and it's not a whole lot different.
Yeah.
But we can do anything we want here. If we know they're not a big man team, and we know they're a huge zone team, and we don't think we're going to have to make a man adjustment over here, and it's just going to be a dig or a seam, we'll change this to levels back here, and we'll just let both guys work through.
I like that. What would you say is your number 1? I mean, what's obviously, if you carry 12 plays, you're carrying everything every week. But what is probably, in your experience, the most sound concept you guys have used out of Empty in the past few years?
We hang our hat on a lot of quick game, but my favorite vertical passing concept, I have 2 of them. I'll share both of them. Is number 1 our streak route. So I've been running it with trips a lot. I'll go left this time. And the reason I like it, I'll kind of share it. We can tag him on whatever. He can whack. He can run across. He can run a ball or a juke route. He can run a hitch, whatever you want. He's kind of that guy that can do everything. These guys are going to be on seam reads. Okay, so they can take it. They can set it. And now I'll show you the other variation. I'm going to put them across, but both these guys aren't going to go across. I'll show you the rule to that in a second. These outside guys are on go routes until they can't get over top the corner. Then at 12 yards, they're putting their foot in the ground. They're falling back out of it. Okay? So 12 yards, they're fall back out of it. They can't get on top of the corner. So we call this a streak. Okay? It's your simple forward vertical passing game, but I believe it has every answer you can ask for. So if you get guys rolling safeties and they're rocking, you can teach your quarterback, most teams are going to roll safety. You're going to have a tail. That one safety, is high school football. He's always going to be telling you he's going to be at 9 yards or 10 yards instead of 12 yards. Just stuff to look for on film. But what we do is we can read it any way. So we know it's one high pre-snap. What we tell our quarterback is he's probably going to be favoring the 3 receiver side. So it's 1 to 2 to 3 down here. And all it is 1, 2, 3. Here's your rhythm. Kind of stole some of the hardcore stuff because I liked it. Here's your second guy. Here's your third guy, and your check down. Okay? Because he can't cover both guys at the same time.
Yep.
If he's high, they're both going to dig in here and work out linebackers. If he starts roaming one side and cheating, he's on a seam read, he's gone. If he rolls the other side, he's on a seam read, he's gone. If he's flat-footed, we got both guys that are top. Okay, so they're top. To feel this guy, release off him, you can take an inside release, get back to the hash. You can take an outside release, stay 1 yard outside the hash. But your eyes are on him. If you're feeling him, eyes are on him. So if he's flat-footed, you're leaving. If he's getting high, you're setting. If he's rotating or floating, you're gone. You're out of there. And you got to affect the ball. What we tell our quarterback is we want the ball between 12 and 18 yards on the first guy. Okay? We would like it in a perfect world at 15. If he sees it right away and he sees this guy starting to lean because of body language, he can shorten his drop. It could be one step and get it to him at 12 yards. Okay? As soon as he clears his curl flat guy. If the curl flat guy, okay, so his eyes are on this free safety first as he's starting to drop, feeling it. If he knows this guy's leaving and this guy happens to be in a trail technique, you're getting, or it would be over here, but you're getting man match and they're top, you get a seam, he's running with them. His job now, he's got to understand this and he's got to know, and it takes a lot of time to teach this. If he's on this side, he can put the ball over top, okay, and he can lead them. Chances are this corner is not going to be able to, if he's really good, he can rob it, but we don't see a whole lot of those kids. And if they're route reading, chances are his eyes, this pushing the 12 yards, his eyes are here for all 12 yards. And he ain't falling off of it, they're route reading. Okay, so he can put it over top, and we tell him the max yardage you can hit is 24. So when you're dropping it in there, if you get it past 24, we got to readjust how we're teaching it and how we're talking about it. But he's reading this guy, basic rules. Now, if he's setting high, picture, and this guy's trailing, he knows now he can come back out here. Or he can go over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's built into it. We just tell him whatever's comfortable. 90% of the time, it's going to be 1, 2 to 3. Just because they feel more confident coming here to check down. And a perfect rule, we teach this because we know this is the best case scenario for explosive play out of one high is reading 1 to 2. They can't cover. But in high school world, you get it a lot of times. And we'll take it. I'm not going to coach them out of that. So that's our base thing. If we get 2 safeties on top, try to take some of this out of here. So we get a safety right here. They know they're going to dig inside there. If these guys are staying flat-footed, they're flat-footed, they're out. Okay? If he's high, he's setting, he's working off the linebackers. Chances are, our second cue, if you get too high, check the corner. If a corner's low on one side, like it's palms, now it becomes this is 1, because you're going to take that whole shot if you got it. This is 2, 3 is your check down. Okay? And then the same rule. So all he's doing is filling this guy, reading that guy. He's curling inside, and he's working off this guy. Now, a lot of times with some of the bracket stuff you get, where we taught our guys, and I stole this from Gary Goff, who's now at Valdosta State when he was at Tiffin, because he would get bracket. So you come inside, you feel that backer, you curl back out of it.
Yep.
And that quarterback goes, now to put it on your outside shoulder, and you're always going to be able to do that. So that's kind of the base thing. Now, where it gets tricky is you get man coverage, right? You can't have two man beaters running across at 12 yards. So what we do is when we call streak, okay, we call streak, it's just this. So if it's my right hand, it tells the right-hand side they are locked. They have to do either, well, actually, it tells them they're locked. They're out of there. They're running them out.
Yep.
No matter what, they're gone. Turn it back on. Okay? If it's not man, then they can run their reads. But if it's man, they're locked. They got to get out. Now, these guys become the man beaters. So at 12 yards, he beats his man. He brings it across. At 5 to 8 yards, he beats his man. He brings it across, and now it becomes levels. And the quarterback knows he can rhythm one of these guys and throw it to him. So if he likes his matchup and he knows the free safety's cheating and he knows this kid's a better player, he can throw this thing on 3 and try to put it out there for him and let him go get it. Or if he's getting press coverage here and he thinks he's got the matchup here and this kid's just better, he can put it out there as 1. And then this one becomes 2. This one becomes 3. If not, here's your 1. Here's your 2. 3's on some kind of check down, wherever it may be. That's my favorite concept. The
So
streak.
let me ask you this, Coach. We have routes that we side adjust, but there's you look at the run and shoot on the outside. It looks like there's a ton of freedom, right? The reality is there is structure for the kids. So I guess my question becomes, to be effective at that concept, right? How many reps do you have to give that? I know you're doing it all spring, you're doing it all summer. How much time does it take for you to get comfortable with not only your receivers on the sight read, but also your quarterback on all that with all the movement?
So, in a perfect world, you wish you could just run 1 year and kids would catch on. It probably takes a whole year for the quarterback to really understand it, honestly. That's why we do 7-on-7s, though. It's huge for us. So we'll have one all-day camp. You get 10 days. So no spring ball, no nothing. You get 10 days. So we take day 1 of our summer. We install all this in the camp. And then every game, every 7-on-7, we're running this like 80% of the time.
Yeah.
We're running our streak, we're running our choice, we're running our stop to the custom home. And we're teaching it on the fly. And we're saying, hey, you get this, and you're running streak, and he's in, outside leverage safety. You got to bring it inside. You may have to come inside. Just those little things that make it go. And teaching it as much as you can on the fly. Some kids pick it up really good. We've been very successful with our slots. They're really smart kids. They're football players. They probably had the most reads out of anybody. The seam read's probably the hardest. I know a lot of teams will run seam read that they can run a post in it. We try to limit it. Where our magic, I think, really happens is how we teach our fundamentals for the receivers. We teach them a handful of skills. We teach them a 1-2 step release for press. We teach them how to release mid-route. We teach them how to release at the top of the route with the throw bys, lean-tos, and all that kind of stuff. And that's really what's been good to us, teaching those fundamentals that transition into the schemes. But, yeah, we spend the majority of our time summer. I mean, it's front-loading everything. And then when we come 2 days, we're installing it again. And we're going over that stuff again. And we kind of pick a day. So day 1 may be all streak. So when we go 7-on-7, we go team, we're running streak probably 70% of the snaps. And we're getting really good at it. Now we have a couple tags off streak. Like I said, switch post, switch corner, which is all 2 receiver side stuff. And they're just switching responsibilities. So, I mean, we can take that one play and make it look 5 or 6 different ways. But to answer your question, it takes a lot of time.
But Pete, you got to understand, he ain't running inside run period.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah. Now we do have an RPO period because we run empty RPOs. We do a little bit inside run. It's not a true inside run period, but we run inside run a lot in the red zone, or when we go to team, that's when we get it in. So we don't vacate it completely, but our kids are in the system from the time they're ninth graders all the way to 12th graders. And we're hoping, really, we don't have a whole lot of freshmen and sophomores playing. It's juniors and seniors, so they get exposed at a young age to the system. And by the time they're juniors and seniors, we hope they have enough of the base knowledge that we can dive deep into it with teaching the little things.
All right. So I got a question based on something you asked, and I'm gonna share screen real quick to do it. All right. So Coach mentioned fallout route, and it's something I've gone back and forth on with fallout or a comeback. A lot of people are going to push to depth, whatever depth they teach, whether it's 12 or 15, and they're going to break the feet and they're going to turn towards the sidelines and they're going to work back. And then some people teach at least what I call a fallout, where you're pushing vertical and you're actually going to turn chest back to the quarterback and then fall back out to the outside. So when you teach fallout, Coach, or your kids, are they turning chest to the quarterback, or are they turning chest to the sideline, eyes to the quarterback when you do that?
So how we teach it, it's kind of the chest to the quarterback. So they're going to push to 12 yards. If they can't get on top of that corner at 12 yards, they're going to put fire, and they're going to come right back down their stem.
Yep.
Okay, so they're going to turn, open their chest to the quarterback. They're going to down their stem to 10 yards, and they're going to fall out towards the sideline, and we're teaching our quarterback to put that ball on the outside shoulder and let him take it. I mean, worst case scenario, you throw it on the outside shoulder, he goes out of bounds at 9 yards, 10 yards. We'll take it every single day.
How do most of you guys teach that? I know, Joker Phillips obviously was at Kentucky and then later got in a little bit of trouble after he left Kentucky. And, have your opinion what you want. I've got a high regard for Joker for some personal reasons. But I watched him talk about falling out and coming back down the stem, chest to quarterback, as opposed to the natural comeback that most people run. And I walked out of that talk, and it just made so much sense to me, and it's always made sense to me, and it's what I've wanted. Now, the truth is some of my kids are more comfortable with the traditional comeback than falling out and showing chest to quarterback. So I'm curious, how do the rest of you teach?
Showing chest to quarterback, you got more margin for error.
Yes, agreed.
And if I got a high school kid who, he's worrying about what the hell Susie Q's doing, okay, he's going to miss a whole lot more times than he's on. I got to give him the biggest margin for error possible. And it's always been good to us. Now I coach it a little bit different in regards to, so let's just say we've got our Daytona package in for our verticals. And if my outside guys get off coverage, they are automatically dropping out. We're not quarterback and X and Z aren't on the same page, we got problems. So if we get off coverage, those two guys automatically got dropouts. So it's predetermined pretty quick. I used to coach it to where at 12, if you're falling out. Well, my quarterback saying, well, coach, I thought, he had him, he was even. No, automatically pre-snap, we got off coverage, those guys are dropping out. So I don't know.
We tie it in with our choice. So our choice is 7-step speed cut out to a fade. So kind of how we teach receivers is at his 5th step, he has to determine if he can get past the corner or he's going to run a speed cut at 7 steps. So what we do is kind of paint that picture in quarterback and receiver's face or mind. If you're even, you're leaving, of course. So you're getting some kind of press coverage, man, anything like that, even leaving. If at 5 steps that corner's flat-footed, you're leaving. If at 5 steps that corner passes to the sideline, or he's in some kind of backpedal technique or whatever technique, we're gonna rip that thing on our 3rd step. So really, we're challenging kids. I'm gonna be honest. The only time I've ever seen the pass picked off on a corner that was in some kind of backpedal technique was we played guys at like Ocean Lakes now. He's on QB1 or whatever, but his kid played at some school in North Carolina, and they were loaded. And their corner, I mean, he jumped it. I mean, it was a great play. I think it was going to like North Carolina or something. Greer was his name. He was somewhere like Carolina. at some really good school there, red and white. And that's the only time I ever seen the choice get picked off by a kid in a backpedal technique. And it was just one of those things where I told my quarterback, I'm like, "Did you throw it on 3? Yeah, everything you're taught." That kid was just good. I mean, he was just good. And
He did. We did chest to quarterback basically because out of the offense or the vertical game that we were coaching, is most of their plus 5 yard routes were breaking in for our outside receiver. So it's just one less thing to coach. You know, how to sit down and break down coming outside. We don't run 10-yard outs. We don't have those jimmies to get that out there. So that was kind of our reason for that is, look, break down like you're coming to a post. Just give me that extra 45 degrees towards a cue now, show them your chest, and then make your way out.
Coach Fields, I knew you were about to speak a second ago.
We will let that fluctuate. If we have a cat that can really roll, we believe in the true comeback. We're going to stick with that inside foot, sit his hips down, and break downhill. But if we have a normal kid, an average kid, a high school football kid, you know, that's out there at Z or X, if he needs to show chest to the quarterback, then that's what we're going to do. The reality is he has to get himself open. But we give him the options.
That's the funny thing to me in my mind, and you can see me, guys. I am an elite athlete, right? I'm just past my prime. That's what I tell the kids all the time. You know, to me, showing chest to quarterback is easier. And for a few years, I had kids that believe that, right? My kids now, they prefer the comeback, and probably a lot of it is because when they watch videos on the weekends on YouTube or on Twitter and Instagram, and then when they go to some trainer, that trainer works that comeback technique, and I feel like that's part of it. But I'm kind of like you, Coach. I want the fallout. That's what I prefer. But if I have a kid that's not comfortable doing it and he's more comfortable coming out of his break, if my quarterback doesn't have an issue with it, I don't.
The same grass.
You know, it is same grass. So I'm with you. I will say this. One thing that we do a little bit of, and we don't get enough off coverage, quite honestly, for it to really be something that we make a ton of hay off of. But one of the more consistent routes that I think I found is we call it a pinch route, a post return.
Yeah.
So instead of working the vertical, right, we'll bang that 8 yards, stick the post, and on our third step, stick our foot in the ground and hard back to the outside. And if you've got a team playing quarters or cover 3 that's going to give you any depth pre-snap, it's so dadgum hard to stop, man.
It's a barn burner. I love that route.
We like I said, we don't play enough teams that give us enough off coverage to be able to take advantage of that route. At least we didn't last year. Our region's going to change, and we'll see how much some of that comes potentially into play. But when we get off coverage, it's a no-brainer to have in, especially if you've got a guy that is a legitimate threat on that post route.
Yeah.
And that's from your single, or is that from like 2x2?
Either. So if you're doing it at a 2x2, if you run like a Mills concept or a double post, do it with the outside receiver, right? Or like single receiver. So like last year, we went into a game where we would go 3x1, and we had 2 primary drop back calls out of 3x1. One was, and I'll share screen real quick just to make it simple. So our 2 primary calls in this game were out of 3x1. So we would go vertical with the outside receiver regardless of which one. But we had one call that was vertical under. And when we did that, it was an automatic pinch route on the backside. And we just told the quarterback, if you like the leverage, take the leverage, right? If we're getting one high or if the corner's off, you just take backside and it's free money. And then the other one we did was just a straight up, same kind of operation. But now we just went vertical, the 10-yard out. And now we locked him on the post route. And again, just told him, said, if you like the leverage backside, take the leverage backside. Otherwise, we had vertical concepts built in on the front side that we felt were sound, and part of what we do. And, so we tagged it and didn't read it. I think it's one of those routes that if you commit to it, you can make it a side adjust. But you just got to obviously make sure the quarterback receiver are on the same page. But yeah, for us,
My thought, coach, is if you did it by a 2x2 instead of running your base like sail,
yep.
you could do it there with your Y and H.
So I think you can, like for us, if we're going to run it at a 2x2, like I said, we're going to do it off of like a Mills. We're going to give you whether it's double post or post dig. And that is a situation where honestly I'd probably be more comfortable letting those two read it out. But I definitely think you could do it. I think you could make it part of your shallow concept if that's something that's in for you. Just basically if you get inside leverage on that corner, work that pinch route, man, because even if you have a flat player, it's going to take, if he's going to get any kind of a reroute, if you're getting cover 4 or anything, if you're getting any kind of a reroute, that's a hell of a job for him to get out underneath that, So it's a very effective route, and obviously a little change up from a traditional comeback or fallout type deal. So anybody got anything else to add, fellas? Coach Turner, I appreciate you stopping by, man. I appreciate you sharing. I know I've scribbled as many notes as I can fit on the page. Thanks for you other guys that chipped in. Always appreciate it. Hopefully you got something good out of tonight. I know a couple guys had to leave earlier, and I've already gotten text or messages from others. I did record this. I will be putting it up on my site. So if anybody wants to go back and watch or listen to anything that happened early or late and they missed it, I've got it for you. I do appreciate it. If you weren't on here at the very beginning, we did empty tonight. We're going to talk play action on Monday from a spread offense. Wednesday, we're hoping to have a guest to talk O-line play, quarterback development on the following Monday, and then we're going to kind of go from there. So if you guys got any more suggestions on topics, let me know. I want to keep this thing as low key and as open as I possibly can to make sure guys are being able to ask the questions they want and get the information they want. But I've really enjoyed doing these because I know I've gotten a lot from it, and hope you guys have done the same. So appreciate it, fellas. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Take care.
Those